Hello and welcome to the second Slushpile Standouts video. My name is David.
And I'm Carmen.
And we are both fiction editors for darlingaxe.com. First of all, thanks very much to everyone who sent us a page to look at today, and thanks to everyone who's watching.
So we're going to be looking at a series of manuscript first pages, and we're going to be looking at them as though we're screening them for a contest. So that means we may only get a couple sentences in, but we also might finish the page and want more.
Yeah.
Should we get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. This delivery was closer to the front lines of war than Lagan was really comfortable with. He loaded the last of his wares into his ship, really proud of this weapon, and was eager to showcase it despite the dangerous location. The cargo door on his ship closed, and before he took off, he wanted to say goodbye to Heb. He walked to the house, the wet mud staining his boots. The thick forest around him sure was humid. The door was open, and inside sat Heb, tinkering with a pistol. "You're still here?" he said with his grumpy voice. Heb ran his fingers through his gray, thinning hair, as he always did when he was annoyed. "What's the issue?" Lagan asked, walking over and grabbed the gun from Heb's hand.
Okay, hold up. Let's stop there. Okay, so there's some good stuff going on here for sure. I like that it's not starting in the middle of like too much conflict, but there's still a hint of tension there. We're in a dangerous location. He's delivering something to the front lines of war. That's an interesting place to start for sure. But I was snagging on small things here and there. So first of all, the opening image, maybe it's a secret what this weapon's going to be, and you want to kind of keep that from the reader, but at the same time, this is your opening image, so we've got this delivery, his wares, this weapon, and by two sentences in, I'm like, I've kind of got this vague idea of what's going on.
Yeah, like is it a bunch of different boxes, or like, am I
one
picturing
big
one
weapon?
thing?
Yeah, I don't know. And then, so a little bit further in, you're still here, he said with his grumpy voice. Heb ran his fingers through his gray, thinning hair, as he always did when he was annoyed. So, first of all, he said with his grumpy voice, that snags a bit with me, just as like, you know, breaking the show don't tell rules. That's just telling me his voice is grumpy rather than giving me a hint in a way that leads me to make that conclusion. And actually, it's also redundant, because when you say Heb ran his fingers through his gray, thinning hair, as he always did when he was annoyed, grumpy, got it. You don't need to say both. One will do there. And I would actually also add that that's a good opportunity to kill the dialogue tag altogether. Actions are a great replacement for dialogue tags. So if you could just say, you're still here, Heb ran his fingers, you know, from there. And then lastly, where I stopped you, what's the issue, Lagan asked. Walking over and grabbed the gun from Heb's hand. There's a bit of a tense shift there, so a small error, but that was enough to pull me out kind of for the final time on that one.
Totally, yeah.
Anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I guess just in the second paragraph, the cargo door on his ship closed, and before he took off, he wanted to say goodbye to Heb. It just doesn't feel like "and" is quite right there, because "and" follows the logical order, but this is kind of a "but."
So he's closed it, but yeah, he's going to do something else other than take off.
And that's small, and I think something that you catch usually if you're reading it out loud, which is really important.
Yeah, definitely a great idea to always read your manuscript out loud when you're done a draft.
Especially the first page.
Yeah, you'll catch a lot of errors that way. Anything else?
No, I think that's everything.
Okay, thank you very much for submitting that one. Okay. Odeon would have killed him a long time ago if it wasn't against the law to murder your twin brother. It seemed only fair he take Apollo's life in return, given what that piece of shit had done to their biological mother. A life for a life. Odeon started up the stairs, skipping a stair with each step, coming up toward their closed bedroom door in the hallway. Even with the door closed, he could feel Apollo's monstrous energy oozing from the room, causing a tingling itch to spread across his arms and back. Such creatures had no place in this world, had no place in his vision for the future, for that matter. They were better off dead. Odeon shook out his arms and bit down on his tongue, wrinkling his eyes at the darkness that seeped through the crack between the door and floor. There was a strong hope Apollo would be dead by the time he peeped inside, his corpse already stiffening from rigor mortis. But perhaps that was more wishful thinking than anything else. Odeon carefully turned the knob and poked his head in, watching Apollo's chest rise and fall with each passing breath, headphones firmly over his ears.
Okay.
He cursed...
Yeah, I would stop that there.
Okay.
So I think there are a couple things that are obviously really good about this, but I am having a couple issues. The first thing that kind of pulled me out a little bit was, this could be a sarcastic voice to start, but Odeon would have killed him a long time ago if it wasn't against the law to murder your twin brother. Is it not against the law to murder anybody in this world? Or is it just against the law to murder your twin brother? Or is this just an excuse to say that you have a twin brother, or that Odeon has a twin brother?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think my biggest issue was I was picturing one thing most of the way through. I was starting to build this idea of what world we were in based on the language. Monstrous, creature, just some of
the names.
The names. It made me feel like this is not modern for sure, or at least not this world. And so I was picturing kind of like wooden, old, not modern. But then we got to the last paragraph there, and suddenly I'm seeing Apollo's chest rise and fall, but headphones over his ears. And suddenly I'm like, whoa, this picture doesn't look quite like what I thought. I'm seeing headphones, and now suddenly the whole room just kind of transformed before my eyes from wood and like old to like drywall and sneakers and dirty socks. I don't know. Did you have that experience?
For sure, and that's something I often refer to as an expectation gap, where you kind of, the reader is always going to be trying to like form a picture of what's going on and what the context is and the surroundings. And so if there's a detail or two missing, or maybe a misleading detail or two, it can cause you to reach a false expectation. And then when that's shattered down the page, you're pulled right out of the story.
And you don't feel at that point like you can trust the story or the narration.
For sure. Okay,
it can be a little hard to get into it.
I agree. I felt very similarly. I had just kind of questions popping up. I also snagged a little bit on the passive sentence there. There was a strong hope Apollo would be dead. Like, it's completely divorced from Odeon. There was a strong hope. It's kind of disembodied. And then his corpse already stiffening from rigor mortis. It's a small thing, but again, it's a redundancy, so I'm always trying to look out for those sorts of redundancies. His corpse already stiffening. Got it. We know that's rigor mortis. Yeah?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I also kind of was taken out as soon as we got to the headphones over his ears.
Yeah.
So something there is just not quite setting up the picture. Yeah?
Yeah, and there could be picture, like if this were a published novel, we might already have an idea based on the cover art.
Yeah, in the description at the back, you might know that this is urban fantasy. So that's one thing that we don't naturally just start with just a single bare page. But
so I'm not sure how it would read in that case. But for me, today, it was a bit confusing.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that one.
Thanks. Hugh woke up screaming, which wasn't new. What was new was that he couldn't feel his face or the rest of his body. He quieted down as he gradually started to regain feeling in his extremities. He tried standing up, but somehow his feet seemed bigger, heavier than before. The place he was in, wherever it was pitch black. He closed his eyes and moved his hand, grasping at what seemed like fresh hay. It definitively smelled like it. Where was he? A few hours earlier. The artificial lights were set to a low level of brightness, and soft
yeah, sorry. I'm going to stop you there.
Okay.
Okay. So, a couple things. This feels like, first of all, middle grade, which is cool. So we got a kind of a different expectation for the voice here. We do have the same expectation of starting out with a clear image. And starting out with somebody in the dark who can't feel anything, we don't know, We don't even know if this is a human or an elf, or, are we in a fantasy world? Are we in now again, book jacket cover is going to tip us off about some of those sorts of things, but just kind of like dropping into the first page of something here, there's not a lot to grab onto. I would also add that if you do a search for the top 10 ways to not begin a novel, or the top 10 ways that novels begin in a cliched way, is someone waking up. I've been told by an agent at one point that she received something like 6 manuscripts in one day where the character is waking up. It's not that you can't start a novel with a character waking up, but it's a hard sell because we see so much of it. It's just such a natural place to start. Anyway, so that was kind of like, I was immediately snagging, and then we're hit with this bold line a few hours earlier, and I kind of get that fits with maybe a middle grade tone.
Maybe it's a bit TV though.
It is a bit, but I think the bigger issue there is I still don't really know who Hugh is or what is going on. I haven't really established a concrete idea about where we are wading into this story, and now it's already a few hours earlier, so I guess I'm gonna find out who this mystery person is now. I don't know, it just feels like
why have that
lost effort there.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, all right, thank you very much for submitting that one.
Thank you.
All right. It was the owl again, always the owl. Every time Ben stayed at his grandparents' house, he saw that damned owl. It was clearly a barn owl, but it always seemed a bit too big and a bit, badly put together. Ben knew birds, and he knew it wasn't quite right. It had too much face. You shouldn't be able to see that much face from that distance. The circumstance was always the same, too. If he slept in the back bedroom, the one with the twin beds, next to the attic stairs, it was always there, swooping in towards the window as he looked out. Each time he would snap the faded curtains closed and dive into one of the rickety old beds. He would pull up the frayed pink candlewick bedspread and lie shivering until sleep finally took him. Each time he saw the owl, the following morning would be strange too. He would feel lethargic and headachy, like he'd been at a very late party and spent too much time breathing in Uncle Harold's pipe smoke. Everyone else would be slightly odd too. Nan would be quiet and withdrawn. Granddad would be grumpy and issue one of his stares at the slightest noise. Ben knew the cows would have been uncooperative when Granddad went out to milk at 5:30. Even Jim the collie would be reluctant to emerge from his den under the stairs of the cake loft. It was what always happened when he saw the owl. This morning was no different. On any normal day, breakfast would involve fresh baked bread, home-cured bacon, golden yolked eggs, and the best sausages you've ever had in your life. Today there was a box of supermarket cornflakes and a jug of milk sitting on the scrubbed pine table. The only thing that wasn't different was the enormous pot of tea sitting steaming under its hand-knitted cozy of red and green striped wool. Ben poured himself a large mug, added a slosh of milk, and sat down next to his cousin Amy. "Morning, cuz," Amy muttered.
That's great.
Okay. Yeah, I love the voice.
Me too, I really like the voice.
The voice is great. And that is, you're ahead of the game if you've got a good voice.
Yeah, totally. I really liked, where's this sentence? Had too much face. You shouldn't be able to see that much face from that distance.
Mm-hmm.
That was like cool voice there. I had maybe like one issue.
What is it?
And I don't even know if it's an issue so much as like being really picky. In the first paragraph, every time Ben stayed at his grandparents' house, he saw that damned owl. And then these crazy things always happen, like these things out of the usual always happen when you see that owl. This morning was no different. And then he goes on to describe what a normal day would be like. And so now suddenly I'm like, oh, so he must, how does he know what normal is like if every time he's there, there's the owl?
Yeah.
But I guess he could be staying for weeks when he goes to stay. And so some of the days the owl is there. And so once every visit the owl comes. I don't know. I don't know if that even needs to be clarified. It's very picky, but...
No, I get what you're saying, and I think there is something to that. But so I just want to go back to the voice, because the voice is really good, and I really like the economy that's being put to a great effect here, where we're getting a really clear picture of this house, and by telling us how things are strange, the narrator is telling us how things are normal, right? Like, you're getting both. So, Nan would be quiet and withdrawn. Okay, so we know that Nan's not quiet and withdrawn on a normal day. But I agree. It makes it seem like he always sees this owl. Ben always sees this owl. And yet, if he always sees the owl, how can, it seems like...
How could he ever know what normal is?
Yeah, so...
So then abnormal is actually normal, but
It does put a question in your head, but you know what? I barely noticed it.
Yeah.
And until you mentioned it, I was just ready to turn the page. So
Totally, because you want to know if it's aliens.
Yeah, I think it's aliens. I don't know why the owl is an alien.
You know why, but yeah. Okay.
All right. Anything else?
No, I don't think I have anything else to say except that was really nice.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that one.
Now I've seen just about everything. A laughing male voice pulled Randy Ronan's attention away from the tire iron she'd been yanking on for some time. She rounded on the voice and rose. One clenched fist jerked on her hip, the other tightened on the hard metal. With the harsh sun directly above, she squinted at her unwelcome guest. You find this funny? Interesting, actually. She huffed. Didn't this man realize the morning she just suffered through? Couldn't he tell by the beads of sweat running off her brow, or the ruffled nature of her best business suit and dust on her new 3-inch pumps? She'd worked at the blown tire under the blistering July heat for well over an hour, only securing the last nut in place seconds before he stopped to leer at her bent over on the side of the deserted highway. And how long had he stood back watching her? As far as the eye could see, rolling hills splattered with vibrant green hemlock, white pine, and yellow birch trees hugged the highway connecting Lower and Upper Michigan. The same highway she sped along months ago, tears in her eyes, anger boiling her blood as she raced away from Chicago. The 6-foot-tall man towering over her cocked his head and chuckled, the features of his face shaded from the glare of the bright sun. You need a hand?
All right. Cool. Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff going on here. So I would say, first of all, I like that she's got this attitude, and that she turns immediately to him with this kind of confrontation. Mm-hmm. You find this funny, but at the same time, she's clearly in a vulnerable position. She's alone. This guy's really big. They're on a deserted highway.
You can feel her frustration though, being in the sun that long, and
yeah, but there's kind of a nice amount of tension. She's annoyed with him, but she also might be in danger. It's not certain.
Right.
And this is a really small thing, but I really like this. Only securing the last nut in place seconds before he stopped. So it's even this little detail that, okay, she's changing her tire, but it's done. So when we need to move on from this moment, she is ready to go. I don't know, it's really good. Also some nice descriptions. Yeah, I would turn the page. What do you think?
I would too, yeah. I mean, I definitely tripped a couple times while reading, but that can sometimes just be reading out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rhythm was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah, I think there was maybe past perfect that was missed.
Yeah, it's a she.
Missing a had.
Yeah.
The same highway she had sped along months ago, tears in her eyes, anger. Yeah, so, but, pretty small issue.
Hang on, that might have happened again somewhere, though. Well, I guess she just suffered through now.
Didn't this man realize the morning she had just suffered through? No, I agree. I think that should be past perfect as well. But, again, pretty small
Yeah, and
issues.
it's almost something that I inserted.
Yeah, I think you may have.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyhow.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right, that's all for this time. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks for submitting. If you'd like to participate in an upcoming Slushpile Standouts video, please send us an email, editors@darlingaxe.com.
You'll also want to follow us just below the YouTube video. Also come to our website, darlingaxe.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. There's a ton of articles there that are super helpful.
Yeah,
that's everything. Okay. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
see ya.